Hi, guys. This is your final big question, and this is a bit of a rehash of some of the topics we talked about in our crime and criminology unit. And it's talking about the best way to stop drug crime. And we know, again, we studied at length the role in which legal and illegal drugs create either the conditions that lead to criminal behavior or create criminal behavior in itself through things like use related crimes where people don't consider um, the consequences of their actions or can't foresee the consequences of their actions because of intoxication. uh, Economic related crime, where people are turning to criminal means in order to fund their drug habit, or system related crime. That's when you almost consider drug trafficking to be a business and all of the associated impacts of that, either corruption, cartel violence, um, turf wars, and everything like just connected to the actual business itself, things like smuggling. So if we can connect the idea, like if you can limit drug addiction, we should be able to limit crimes that result from that. And I introduce you to two perspectives here: prison or incarceration or rehab. What is the best way to do it? So with incarceration, again, it's sorry, treating that kind of drug addiction or possession of drugs as a criminal act and penalizing it by locking people up in a jail or a prison. Often, people that go into jail for something related to their addiction, they're often forced to quit cold turkey, which actually can be deadly, which means you're stopping your addiction by sheer force of will and with nothing else. There are no medications in order to aid you. Um, and usually it's unsuccessful. Um, I talk about how, again, often one of the conditions that can lead to drug crime and criminal uh, behavior in general is poverty. And by locking somebody up and denying them the ability to earn an income, forcing their children to be impoverished, and definitely hurting their ability to earn an income after serving their sentence, incarceration can definitely increase poverty, which can have an increased impact on addiction rates as well. And there's the expense of it. Again, when we incarcerate somebody, we, the taxpayers, have to pay for it. So this is not a free service, and it is not a service somebody with an addiction can pay for. Again, it is the law-abiding citizens who pay for this incarceration. And we know that the recidivism rate for incarceration is terrible. Two-thirds of people who go into prison for a drug-related offense will reoffend because none of the underlying situations, psychological, sociological, economical, have been addressed. So people will get right back into the circumstances that led them to it, the addiction in the first place, and will probably return to a life of crime. The second kind of theme or idea I talked about was rehab and harm reduction. It involves a mindset change where we're no longer just thinking of drug addiction and drugs in general as a criminal matter, but more of a public health emergency. So when we do that, we change our mindset, and some of the tools we can use change as well. So part of rehabilitation, turning these, again, people who are suffering with addiction into fully functioning members of society, is addressing the underlying issues. So addressing the poverty, addressing the mental health concerns. So you can get at the root of the addiction. People don't turn to hard drugs, methamphetamines, fentanyl, heroin, opiates, because they want to. They're often a coping mechanism, and it's the wrong coping mechanism. So when you treat it as a health issue, and when doctors are solving the issues instead of police officers in the court system, sometimes the outcomes are better. I talked about the genetic role in addiction. And again, 40 to 60% of your propensity for addiction comes from your, again, inherited genetics. So by punishing addiction, we're in a sense punishing people for what they inherited. There is a cost savings when you can redirect people.
Moody, you have a call on 100. Miss Moody, a call on 100.
Continuing, when you can redirect people away from the criminal justice system, away from prisons, away from the courts, away from lawyers, there is a cost saving to the taxpayer. And it's in the billions. So again, I mentioned two. So when you redirect 10% of people out of the criminal justice system, it's a savings of 4 billion. When you redirect 40%, it's almost $13 billion. You are allowing these people to go on with their daily lives, maybe even keep their jobs, keep supporting their families, and lessening the expenses for the taxpayer. Again, we can look at the Portuguese example, the decriminalization of all drugs, which has significantly lowered their drug addiction rate and their overdose rate. I always use the stat that Portugal has less overdose deaths per year than Waterloo region, even though they are 20 times the population of our region. So is it connected to criminal behavior? No, but if we're talking about just saving lives in general, again, harm reduction, it could be a better solution. And the state of Oregon in the recent 2020 elections has also thought about taking the same route. So now this idea that was almost thought of as distinctly European has come across the ocean to North America. There are other options instead of letting people go cold turkey for drug addiction or treating their drug addiction. There are things like methadone, which can be prescribed by a doctor, which will bond to the same receptors in your brain and reduce withdrawal symptoms and allow people to gradually break their addiction. Needle exchanges and safe injection sites, so allowing people to safely consume drugs in a safer environment, which could lower, again, the likelihood of encountering a broken needle or people just dying in the streets or in back alleys. And when you put all of these ideas together, maybe this is a better way of truly breaking someone's addiction and their likelihood to commit a criminal act. Okay, if you have any questions about this, Google Classroom, Gmail, or Google Meet. Have a good day.